every time I've gone through a Kriya initiation, I've tended to feel clearer right afterwards, and for the days and sometimes weeks after it happened. I tended to feel more motivated, more responsible, more inspired. And that's because, who knows what, but something happens during the process that just gives a boost or uplifts your energy, your spirit. Yogananda would often tell his students that when they would initiate others, that either he or one of the other teachers would be there during the initiation process. But what we have to really talk about is, what do you do afterwards? Many people think that by going through the initiation, that's it. That's all they have to do. But the initiation really is a new beginning. It is a affirmation of a new life. This is one of the reasons why the karma shifts when you go through it, because if you decide from one point forward that you're going to live more holistically, more uprightly, from a sense of inspiration and from a clearer and higher perspective, well, of course, a lot of your karma isn't going to trouble you anymore, because you're going to be living differently. Hopefully you're going to be living according to the practices of yoga, which are the yamas and niyamas: truthfulness, non-stealing, harmlessness, contentment, non-possessiveness, non-attachment, fearlessness, as we go into the qualities listed in the Bhagavad Gita, freedom from malice and anger, all these types of things. If you do that, we're naturally going to have a better life afterwards. But I always looked at the Kriya initiation experience as though this is just a metaphor or analogy. It's like you have a relative who's really wealthy, and maybe you don't have a whole lot of money. And so you go to this relative and you explain what you want to do with your life and what's going on. And the relative says, "That's fantastic. I'm going to give you $1 million. I'm just going to give it to you." And the relative is expecting that you're going to take that money and spend it well, invest it well, not waste it, not squander it. But what many people do when they get that kind of money, if you ever read about what happens to people's lives after they win the lottery, it doesn't quite go that way. But ideally it would. And then the person can build a richer and richer life as they go. Well, metaphorically, we could look at the Kriya initiation in the same way. You know, the teacher, those who are sharing the Kriya teachings, they're looking to you and they are seeing you in your highest light. They are teaching you things which will help change and transform your life for the better. And if you decide from that day forward that you are going to apply what you have learned, and you're going to meditate daily to strengthen the body, clarify the mind, calm the emotions, balance yourself out psychologically, if you decide that you're going to live by the yamas and niyamas from that point forward, you're going to find it's as if you were given $1 million spiritual dollars, and then by doing that, it just grows and multiplies, and your spiritual life becomes richer and richer. But if, on the other hand, you go through the Kriya initiation thinking that someone just tapping you on the top of your head is going to make everything better, well, then you go back to your old behaviors. You don't try to do the hard work to become internally clear and more conscious, and your life will just go back to the way it was for the most part, more than likely. So we have to remember that after you have gone through the Kriya initiation, once you've learned how to meditate using the Kriya Yoga techniques, once you have learned about the texts like the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the Bhagavad Gita, and how they can be helpful for you to study, and once you learn about lifestyle routines that just help you be healthier and a better person, you have to apply them. And it is that new beginning of the initiation that gives you that opportunity. It is that boost of inspiration, that boost of clarity, that extra energy that seems to come from it, at least in my experience, that can help you to make choices to this end. And this is the most important thing to know about the Kriya initiation process. And it may be that some of the changes you have to make are hard. They're not going to be easy. Trying to change your habits and your behaviors to reflect a higher way of living, or a calmer way of living, or a more respectful and responsible way of living for yourself and others. Sometimes that's not easy, especially if you have a lot of psychological quirks or weird psychological complexes going on. But we know, and you've probably studied this, that part of the yogic path is self-study. Not only study of that spiritual self, that soul deep down inside you, but also study of how you behave. And you learn to master your states of consciousness and alter your behavior through trial and error, through consistency, through just the hard work of trying to change. And if you need to, the development of sometimes sheer willpower. So again, the boost that you get from the Kriya initiation is to help you deal with not only the easy positive changes, but also the things that you have some trouble with, some things which you have a little bit of, you got too much habit. It's hard to go against the grain of that particular karma, that particular samskara. But remember, you put the fruit down, so you have to let go of that and choose something different. And if you do that, you can look back and you can remember how you felt during and after the Kriya initiation process. And you can remember how uplifted and supported you felt with the others that were going through the process. And you can, in a way, tap into that memory, tap into that energy, so that you can make these changes and do the hard work and persevere until it becomes natural. You'll find that if you persevere until something becomes natural, well, eventually it becomes easy. You know, all the habits and all the difficulties you have, it's either because you let them be, you just let them play out, or because you chose them. Well, if you start reversing the flow of the momentum, we can start putting other things in play. You can start putting newer behaviors in play. Instead of getting angry, you can say, well, I'm aware of that now, so let's work on freedom from malice and anger. Instead of worrying all the time, you can say, well, let's find a way to work through fearlessness and contentment. And of course, the better you set up your life based on what you've learned through the Kriya Yoga teachings, the easier it will be. And the more you meditate, you have greater self-awareness and greater choice to see what needs to be done and make those choices. So those days and months and years after you have gone through the Kriya initiation process, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to think about, and this is how you have to begin changing your life. And you can even believe and accept that you are a new person. You, in a sense, have been reborn. You know, in certain religions, such as Christianity, there is the idea of baptism. And once you're baptized, you are reborn in spirit. And now, of course, just like in that situation, you have to then choose to live differently. If I recall, there's a statement in the Bible where there was a sinner, and Jesus completely and utterly forgave the sinner. And what did he say to the sinner? He said, great, you are forgiven. Now go and sin no more. Which means he was, in a sense, baptized, and he will make the most of that if he decides from that point forward not to go back to those transgressions which were difficult or causing him problems. So this is what I'd recommend for you to consider, and realize that by keeping yourself in tune with the Kriya tradition, by studying inspirational literature, spiritual inspirational literature, by meditating every day, by doing your best to arrange your schedule so that you have a regular sleep and waking, that you get adequate rest and activity, so that you have a balance between entertainment, leisure, and also hard work, that you are choosing the diet that is most fitted to your temperament or to your constitution, you will find that once you get through those initial snags and those initial hurdles, that things do tend to work out better for the most part, and that you do generally feel more uplifted, clear, and spiritually aware. And that's really the purpose of not only the Kriya initiation process, but the entire practice of Kriya Yoga meditation.